With me now, criminal defense attorney Brandy Harden and former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. Glad to have both of you here. I want to begin with you, Brandy, because the prosecution insisted in their closing that she acted intentionally, that she acted rationally. Case in point, that she was very calculated. Do you think the defense successfully dismantled that by focusing on her repeated cries for help that they say went ultimately unanswered?
I do. I really do think that they did a good job answering those questions. And I think when you're going not guilty by reason of insanity, you have to establish that there's a mental health disorder before the actual crime takes place. And I think that they have plenty of evidence to establish not only that she was on a cocktail of medication, but that she was having these kinds of thoughts well in advance. I think the prosecutor just said she was having these thoughts in December of hurting herself and hurting her children. And I think the defense did a really good job of showing that she was not in her right state of mind. In fact, she was psychotic at the time that this incident happened. So I think that that's what you have to do when you have not guilty by reason of insanity. You have to show that the mind is not operating rationally, even though the prosecution says it is. In fact, she's not. She's psychotic. And I think an expert also testified that she was not in her right mind at the time that this incident happened.
You know, Neama, you heard the defense blame lousy medical care for the tragedy, not Clancy herself. And as Brandy rightly points out, they're going for not criminally responsible for her actions. We had producers in the courtroom, and they said that one female juror was wiping her eyes, and you could hear a pin drop. So from the prosecutor's perspective, knowing that she's been sobbing throughout the trial, and this is a very difficult case to have listened to, let alone to have been experienced in the courtroom, what does that tell you? That the defense's argument may have hit home?
Well, Laura, this is one of the saddest cases I've ever covered, and I think the defense did a good job. Best defense is always a good offense. Put the system on trial. But from the prosecution's perspective, it's not really relevant to the defense here. Even if the system failed Lindsay Clancy, does that mean that she is legally insane? And I think the prosecution did a better job today of taking on a more balanced, nuanced approach. What do I mean? In their opening statements, they said that Lindsay Clancy was manipulating her doctors. She was faking or even exaggerating her suicide. Well, I think that was a bridge too far. And today they said they acknowledged that she is mentally ill, but that does not mean that she is legally insane. That does not mean she doesn't know right from wrong or she can't control her conduct. And they refocused the attention in this case, not on the health system, which we know is unpopular. Look at the Luigi Mangione case, but on those three children. I think they made significant ground today, a much better summation than the beginning of their presentation. I still think it's going to be hard to get 12 jurors unanimously beyond a reasonable doubt to agree on anything in this case. This jury may end up hanging, but they gave themselves a shot today that they didn't have yesterday.
And one complicating aspect of this is they don't just have to answer one question. I mean, they've got a verdict, they have 3 verdict slips, Brandy, with multiple options ranging from first-degree murder all the way to manslaughter. I mean, it's hard enough for juries, as Neama pointed out, to reach one single unanimous decision. This is complex. How can they do so in this instance?
It's very difficult when you have lesser included offenses, right? To figure out, well, if we don't think that she's guilty of this one, well, what about the next one? And what about the next one? Here, there are a wide range of different charges. And I think it is going to be difficult to have a group of 12 people agree on any of that. And I think
Which is what the defense wants to add these other charges.
That's right, because we want to say, look, if you think that she's guilty, certainly it's not guilty of first-degree murder. There may be something that you think she's lesser responsible for. But I think here, it's going to be difficult to have 12 jurors come up with a verdict here of manslaughter, of murder, of anything. I think just like we saw a juror crying, this is a very tragic case. And I think the prosecution has conceded, I think just like Neama said, that she was in fact, mentally ill.
I want to turn to the Tupac Shakur murder trial because the defense has rested in that case after they called 3 law enforcement witnesses. This has been billed, by the way, both you know, as a multiple-week trial. It lasted all of 8 days of testimony, and even the defendant seemed shocked that the prosecution rested their case. He did not take the stand. Let me ask you, Neama, given the fact that the prosecution was not suggesting that Keefe D. Davis pulled the trigger, but was the so-called shot caller, with 30 years since the killing, no weapon and no car, and only him as a star witness, it was already a tough case for the prosecution, right?
No question. And the 3 of us were covering the trial yesterday, and we were shocked when the defense rested after 8 court days when they'd asked for a month. And Today, the defense starts presenting their case. And what do they present? 3 Las Vegas police officers, 2 officers, 1 detective. That's a pretty strong move by a defense attorney. And guess what? Nevada is one of those states where jurors can ask questions.
And they
we
have.
got a great question today, a great one. Is there any evidence that puts Davis in the Cadillac? And the police detective, Dan Long, he didn't have an answer to that aside from Davis's own words. So the jurors are thinking what we're thinking. Where is the independent corroborating evidence? I think the defense feels very good about their case. And I'm telling you, I can't recall a defense case where all their witnesses were law enforcement. Very strong move, strong defense case here.
I'm smiling because Brandy is mouthing her comments.
I am.
Last word, go ahead, quick.
Listen, the Tupac trial was so short, you can't even imagine. I think that the prosecution didn't have the evidence that they said that they had, and ultimately they rested on just having the word of Keefe D, and that's just not going to be enough. His word alone is not going to be sufficient.
His words, though, were a confession, so we'll see how the jurors look at all this. Brandy Hart and Neama Rahmani, thank you all so much. Coming up, a near